So it's not only their technical expertise, but it's their management expertise. I mean, we all know companies where fabulous company, fabulous idea. The brain behind the idea is the CEO, and the company goes nowhere. It just collapses. You don't have time to do justice to all 200 candidates. It may be, you may think it's unfair from one perspective, but we don't have unlimited time. Because if you do sloppy work really quickly, which you see all the time in startups, you see in non-startups too, people want to make an impression. You get a new job, you want to bang stuff out quickly. You think you understand the organization, you don't because you just got there. Or it's a startup situation, you want to add value in a hurry, don't. Better good than fast. Festina lente.
Welcome to the Raise and Exit podcast. I'm Edgar Baum. I'm the host for you today. I'm extremely excited to go and have Tim Enneking as our guest today because he's going to go and provide a perspective which is extremely rare to get. It's the combination of being both buy side, sell side, and advisor side at the same time. And just to throw in a few things, he's got a little bit of experience from around the world. And as you know, this podcast is more about sharing stories. This is about going and helping entrepreneurs understand and anticipate what they need to successfully raise money or sell their business and learn from people who've gone through it so that they go and get an advantage that others don't have. So as part of this, I'm excited to go and introduce Tim to you. Tim, why don't you go and share with us a little bit about your background, what you're going and doing, and why somebody who's listening to you would be interested in knowing you more.
I guess I'll presume to say that this will be of interest to the people that are watching. I'm sort of an odd duck in that I have, serious chops in the TradFi space. My last job ended last summer was 9 years at a 9-digit, trying to be 10-digit family office. I did no crypto, tripled its value, its AUM, assets under management, in 9 years. Well, at the same time, I was running my own crypto fund. I started a business that's actually two businesses 5 years ago called Stallion PSA, that has a yield farming, what's now the largest yield farming operation in the world that we know of, and VC fund. We're about to launch our third vintage. And then I parachuted into one of the companies that the VC fund, the second vintage of the VC fund, invested in, called Presearch. And for my sins, for the last year and a half, I've been the CEO of Presearch.
Well, it's funny when you kind of go back to where you started in terms of being the executive who's having to go and set the strategy while also knowing all the due diligence side that's there. Can you give me a sense of what is it like to be in your shoes where on one day you're trying to go and expand a company and almost articulate the value proposition for customers and investors, and then maybe even in the same day be given an opportunity to go and review something with a buy side or an investment look at your hand?
It happens in the same day, believe me. It's really interesting because I know when I'm wearing my Presearch hat, right, the CEO hat, I know, and we're raising money now as we speak. It's just, we're in the middle of the process, I would say, right now. And it's really funny because if I have other people on the team, right, they work on decks and various other things. It doesn't just apply to fundraising, but it really applies to fundraising. And that is, people build decks, people provide information, and they think about what they want to say, what they want to provide. It's like, that's not really relevant. What's relevant is what the other side is interested in hearing. So people so often, when they tell the story about themselves, about, like, I could have spent 10 minutes talking my background, right? Cut it down 45 seconds. No one wants to hear anymore. What I want to say, it's what your audience wants to hear. And it's the same thing in decks. They don't want to hear all the painstaking details of all the work you've done and stayed in the office till midnight or whatever. What they want to hear, if they're an investor, they want to hear about exit strategies. They want to hear about multiples. They want to hear about other things. Where's the value going to be built? It's an issue with communication in general. People at the beginning of their careers, they don't communicate well. Then they get good at communicating about what they want to say. And that's lovely, but that's only about the middle of the space. What you really want to get good at is you don't tell people what they want to hear. It's not like you're lying to somebody, but you're addressing the issues that your audience wants to see addressed. And that's really the next level. And because I've been on the buy side and the sell side simultaneously, still am actually, both in crypto and in fiat, it just helps me understand my audience and what's important to them and not get bogged down in details that are important to me managing and inside the company, but it's really not relevant except as an anecdote to the audience.
You've shared something valuable there in terms of what I would almost kind of call like time arbitrage. You have a certain amount of time with people that are looking to invest into you or buy your company, and you want to figure out what is the most efficient use of that time. And building on that piece of wisdom, what are some mistakes from, call it your past selling or raising of companies that you've gone and done that you've moved on from, but you're still noticing in others that it's just an unnecessary mistake, that if they just knew about it, they would stop doing it? What's another thing that you could share with us?
Do you mind if I share that on a personal level first?
Sure.
I dropped out of college and went into the U.S. Army and dropped out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I went to 7 different institutions of higher learning, ranging from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the Keystone University there, to I once went to Cochise College in southeastern Arizona when I was at a military school there. And the reason I didn't graduate is because it seemed to me that what was important is not what sheepskin you had, right? Not what diploma you nailed on the wall, but what you knew. And that was really what I knew. I wasn't thinking about the question you asked, which is, and what I referred to, and that is, what does the audience want to hear? And then I realized, wow, it's true in some theoretical abstract perspective that what I knew as a prospective employee, what you knew, what anyone in the audience knows, but how do you determine that? And then I realized, my God, if you put out an advertisement for a job, you'll get 200 candidates. You're going to look at discriminators that make it easy to whittle that down to like 5, 6 people. And you will lose some good candidates. You may lose the best candidates because they don't have the degree that you decided to use as a first discriminator, but you're willing to pay that price because the reason you mentioned, you don't have time to do justice to all 200 candidates. It may be, you may think it's unfair from one perspective, but we don't have unlimited time. So I finally figured that out. And after 7 undergraduate degrees, I got my degree. And within 4.5 years, I had 3 more degrees. And since then, I added a 5th one. So, and my daughter's great. She's 10 years old. She says, Papa, I'm going to get 6 degrees because you only have 5. Only have 5? I mean, only your daughter, a 10-year-old, could tell you that you only got 5 degrees. I mean, what's a postdoctoral freaking degree? Anyway, but to answer your question, that really is what I realized finally then is that, I have to make the other person's use of time as efficient as possible. It may not be fair. In fact, it's probably unfair. But if you're pitching, it's why people talk about the famous elevator pitch. Why is that a point? It's not a point because you only have 20 minutes in the elevator, 20 seconds in the elevator. The point is the person that you're pitching to has a very finite amount of time. Yeah. And if you're thinking about the other person, the audience, what the considerations of the other audience are, view it as this way. You have to respect the other audience's limitations, not like their mental limitations, but they only have a certain amount of time. They have a lot of things to do. And if you're pitching to them, you have to bear that in mind. You have to make it important enough for them in a short period of time for them to carve a piece out of their very, very busy schedule to fit you in. And I think that addresses your question, doesn't it?
It totally does. It totally does. And what you're also bringing is like another aspect of it, which I think a lot of people kind of almost romanticize the act of fundraising or selling a company. It really is just another form of selling something else. Like if you're trying to go and sell your product or your service as on trying to go and acquire customers, it's no different. It's still being respectful of the other person's time. Is it relevant for us to have a conversation? I'm reflecting on one of the most incredible experiences I had professionally was going and doing some market intelligence on a client of ours, and we tried to see if a competitor of theirs would be interested in us as a customer. And they scheduled a 20-minute intake call. Do you know how long we lasted? 7 minutes. 7 minutes. They gave us 13 minutes back. Other people would be offended. I'm like, wow, what a great system to know, because we totally did not qualify. We were nowhere close to revenue or size. And from that interaction, we learned so much of what our client's competitor was doing better than they were. They were much better at time arbitrage than our client was.
Have you ever heard about the book Getting to Yes?
I've heard of that. I've heard about several other sales like Spin and other ones that are out there as well. So Getting to Yes.
Not so much sales. Not so much. I'm writing a book on negotiating. And the only external source I'm using is Getting to Yes. A guy named Urey and Miller, they published this like 40 years ago at Harvard. And Getting the Yes is basically about positions versus interests. Interesting concept. They leave it fairly theoretical, and it's one of the many, many things I'm expanding on much more with literally tens, if not hundreds of examples in my book. But a guy wrote a response to it, an article in response to it, Getting to Know, not K-N-O-W, but N-O, Getting to Know. And it was really, really good because it was like, look, when you go and if you're selling something at any level, whether it be an investment fund, investment in your company, or whether it be, widgets on the street, figure out what the biggest reasons that people just say, absolutely not, I can't. Give me an example. I used to run a Russia-focused fund, an Eastern European-focused fund with most of the investments in Russia. And I would go in and I'd talk to somebody. People would agree to meetings, but they literally had a mandate that said they could not invest in the former Soviet Union. So the obvious question was, why the hell did you accept this meeting? But anyway, what I would do is I would ask those a couple of questions that were threshold questions, 100% gating issues, no discretion. And then if one of them was no, and I realized it was a complete waste of time, people were kind of interested in what was going on. This was, in the 90s and in Russia. So I spent a little time with them out of politeness, wouldn't shut the door, but then would cut it off as quickly as possible and go on. Because getting to know, the idea is if you've got a prospective relationship, sales or any kind of other relationship, and there is some issue there that will absolutely prevent you from going forward. It might be a legal issue, it might be a contractual issue, it might be just something about the personality, who knows? Those you can often overcome. But if it's really, really an absolute black and white gating issue, that's getting to know. Figure it out early so you don't waste time, neither your time nor the other party's time.
Oh, I love it because it reminds me of something that I've kind of come to learn is that time is the most limited constraint. You can always get more money, you can always get more staff, but it's almost impossible to get more time without being more efficient with what you have already. So I love where you're taking that.
I call it a resource. Yeah, exactly. I call it time. Time is the most limited resource, and it's one of the very, very few that you can never get back. Most other resources you can recover. There are a few, you burn oil, you burn coal or something, you can't get it back. But most resources, you can either buy more of it, you can get back. You can't with time. So that makes time, and the more senior you get, the more precious your time becomes.
So I want to use that as a caveat to a couple of questions that I prepared that I don't think can really be asked of somebody other than you because of your experience that you have.
Uh-oh.
And my first one that I have for you is you are both investor in, but also somebody who's done buy-side due diligence in the whole crypto domain and that evolution over the past 10 years, et cetera. Can you give me a sense of how critical is it for you to go and have domain expertise to be able to make a responsible decision? And if I'm a founder, how important is it for me to know that the investor or the buyer has domain expertise, or is that overrated?
Okay, there are three aspects to a due diligence, the standard ones that everybody will tell you about: legal, financial, technical. Right. And you talk about area expertise. Honestly, on the legal stuff, you may need a little bit of it, some sort of esoteric corner of the world. But in general, what's your legal structure? Do you have all the license? Whatever the heck, it's pretty standard. Financial, it's even more standard, right? I mean, being in finance is wonderful because it's one of the most internationally portable skill sets you can possibly have. Numbers be numbers. 2 + 2 = 4. It's going to equal 4 in any culture, right? Fortunately. Then you have the technical aspects of it, which is related to the specifics of what you're doing. The first two, you really don't need. Legal, you may need some. Finance, you rarely need some, but if there's something really esoteric going on from a financial perspective, they're pretty standard. They're pretty cookie cutter. Technical, there, you as the buyer have to have expertise in that area. And the company you're investing in damn well better have expertise in that area. And so what I found is if I particularly as an individual, don't have that expertise, I got to hire somebody who does and have him or her go in and do the due diligence, do that aspect of it. Fortunately, I've got a reasonably broad of subject, so I generally at least know something tangential or peripheral to it. but that just makes me more dangerous because I think I understand it and I don't. So definitely you have to have that financial expertise. The point note I would add is that's where I started when I began. And as I was international vice president of M&A for the largest independent telco in Europe for a number of years. By the end, though, it had changed. I'd added a fourth one, and it used to be a footnote, and that was management, right? How good are the people? And you start with basically look at senior management and go no further. Over the years, went deeper down into the personnel structure, and management moved up in terms of priority to the point where by the time I left, it was absolutely, you start with management. You start with, in startups and companies you're investing in, except if it's, it's a cash cow printing money where the business is 30 years old and has been doing the same thing day in and day out. We don't really need a lot of innovation. Only in that very rare circumstance, and growing more rare, is management not critical. Is management not the most important factor? And now that I'm in running a VC fund, start the third vintage, and we're doing seed and pre-seed, my philosophy has gotten to 6 letters, 3 words. VC is HR. The management is everything. And I used to say the same sentiment in a different sentiment I'm about to say in a lot of words, and I read it someplace and I thought, oh my God, this is it. It's another way of kind of saying the same thing. I would rather invest in a company with an A team and a B idea than a B team with an A idea. And that's absolutely, absolutely true, because the A team with a B idea, they'll pivot if they need to. A B team with an A idea could easily screw it up. So it's the same thing. VC is HR. People are everything. And the younger the company, the more that is true. So it's not only their technical expertise, but it's their management expertise. I mean, we all know companies where fabulous company, fabulous idea. The brain behind the idea is the CEO, and the company goes nowhere. It just collapses. I've seen very up close personally, I've seen 3 different instances. In fact, one just happened to me a couple of months ago. I was peripherally involved. Brilliant idea for a fund. They even launched the fund, no investment. And then it imploded because of personnel issues between the 2 founders. You see it all the time. So the management, whether both from their technical understanding and their understanding of managing, critically important.
Oh, I love just how you kind of put that emphasis. And I think with some language that I haven't heard spoken as much, because there's a lot of people going and saying, oh, they invest in founders. But I think what you're going and articulating is in that I'd rather have the A team with a B idea rather than the B team with the A idea, because there may be an A team that's going to come and take that A idea and take it out from underneath you. And that's been frequently happening in a lot of spaces. I also have a whole other series of questions, and I might just have to hold to what it's like to go and get investments from family offices. And I think I'll put that to a follow-up session with you, Tim. But before we wrap up this one, I have a few things from you. I'm going to put you on a fun firing line for a moment. You're based in San Diego, so I have to ask you, sunrise or sunset?
Oh, honestly, sunset. I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I put them to bed late and get them up just in time for school. I don't see sunrises much at all. Besides, the sun sets in the west, so you see it set over the Pacific. It rises over some goofball tree or mountain over here. Sunset, definitely.
I love kind of the context of that. What is a quote that has just grown with you in its wisdom or value? So I'll toss you mine. Mine is, I love Charlie Munger's, show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. It's just become more and more important over the decades since I first heard it. What do you have one of your own?
Okay. Quis custodiet ipsos custodes.
Oh, we're going Latin here.
I'll give you another one, which I also like, which is also in Latin. I use almost weekly. That one I use every couple of weeks, and that is festina lente. But quis custodiet ipsos custodes. Custodet, custody. The translation in English is who will watch the watchers. And what I often run into are structures where you have some sort of supervision or supervisory authority or something theoretical, and everyone assumes that that's all you need and it's going to end there. I just, at least once a month, I run into that aphorism, and it really, really applies, because human beings, I mean, even wonderful human beings with the best motivations in the world, if they don't think someone's looking over their shoulder, they're going to start cutting a little corners here. Not necessarily stealing something, but, maybe working a little less, leaving a little early, maybe, counting personal expenses as company expenses or whatever. And there might be some judgment there. But if they know that nobody is watching, and it goes on for a while, things start to slip and go here and there. So what do I want to say? The least negative example of who will watch. So you've got a built-in monitoring mechanisms, in short. The other one is festina lente, which I just love. If anyone speaks Spanish or French, lente, lentissimo, lentement, or whatever. It means the best translation in English is make haste slowly. And as everybody wants to hurry with, especially a startup, because you really don't have so much time. But the corollary to that is I tell people better good than fast. Because if you do sloppy work really quickly, which you see all the time in startups, you see in non-startups too, people want to make an impression. You get a new job, you want to bang stuff out quickly. You think you understand the organization, you don't because you just got there. Or it's a startup situation, you want to add value in a hurry, don't. Better good than fast. Festina lente.
Tim, I love those, and I could probably go so much further. So I'm going to give you two more questions. One, you are on the buy side / investment side. Why would somebody come to Tim to raise money, to get an investment from your fund?
Wow, let me understand. So why would an investor invest in Stallion Venture Capital 3, or what do you mean? Or in
No. Why would they want to come to you to go and get a check? They're pre-seed or seed. What industry are they in? What problem are they solving that you're like, I would be interested in taking some of your time that's valuable to go and explore that investment opportunity with the coaching that you just gave them the past 20 minutes?
I'm going to read something.
Please.
What do we tell our investors that is going to be motivating to them when we say, hey, invest in us because we add value? Do we? Right? And I've asked 4 companies, I've gotten 3 quotes, and I want to read one of those. To read one of the quotes, part of one of the quotes. No, actually, I'm not going to read the part about me. I'm going to read the part about Stallion. Stallion, ancient Greek for chain. It says, and here's a quote. It's not from me. Stallion has been more than an investor. They've been a catalytic force behind, I won't mention the name of the company, evolution from day one. They brought not only capital, but rare brilliance, unmatched strategic insight, and a network that shifted the trajectory of this company. They folded me into rooms and conversations no one else could, elevated my thinking and emboldening my vision in ways I didn't know I needed. What began as a funding relationship quickly transformed into a deep partnership, one that shaped every part of my growth as a founder and CEO, whether in business strategy, product development, people leadership, finance, or emotional resilience. That's an interesting one. Stallion has left an indelible mark. I mean, I got
Tim, that is super cool.
Got that quote, and I thought, damn, I hope I can live up to that just once. But that's what the guy wrote. That's what the CEO wrote. And I was very flattered, very touched by that. And I think it answers your question better than I could myself.
That's beautiful. And my last one, that's for you. You're also the CEO of an operating company. Why should somebody reach out to you for your services?
Yeah, the operating company is a decentralized, privacy-focused, blah, blah, blah search engine. It's unique. One of the really interesting aspects of modern life, it's, 1984 and George Orwell, and that is we can do so much so quickly on a cell phone like I'm using now for this, on a computer or whatever. All the information stored every place in the cloud, readily accessible to us. The downside of that is the very obvious flip side of the coin. There's a lot of information about us floating around out there. Companies use the information about us. They profile us. They target us with ads. They do a lot of other things. They gain value from that information. And the shift from Web 2 to Web 3, Web 2 being broadcast effectively, broadcast media, and Web 3 being more interactive, is A, we should know where the information is, even if we can't control it. But B, we should be able to control it. And C, most importantly, if all these companies out there are monetizing, I should say, I don't want to get too general. If certain companies out there are monetizing our information, it would make sense that we should be able to benefit from that monetization. And traditionally, we haven't, and we still don't in the vast majority of cases. But with the blockchain decentralization, disintermediation, the time is coming, the time is here, in certain cases, certain examples, where we can monetize our own data, assuming we want to, or at least we can control it.
Yeah.
And the world is not really, it's coming to grips with that, right? With certain legislation. Europe is very much ahead of the US in this regard, or Canada and North America. But it's a pendulum that's gone all the way one way to everyone can get our data and monetizing it. Everyone, I exaggerate a little bit, many people. And the pendulum is only starting to swing back in the other direction. But if we don't care about our data, where it goes, who has it, who accesses it, and who can monetize it, then the pendulum's not going to move back anymore. But I think people are becoming more aware of what happens to their data. And the company I run, Presearch, is really focused on people who are concerned about those things.
Tim, it has been such a pleasure. I wish we had more time.
Likewise, I love your question.
But I think we'll have to find another time.
Great question.
That's beautiful. Thank you, sir. It has been a pleasure. And with that, we will wrap up the podcast.
Thank you very much, Edgar.
My session with Tim Enneking was just like trying to capture decades of experience in as little time as possible. And I hope that you were able to go and get immense value of what he went and said, and kind of almost put a catalyst for additional questions for us that is worth for us to go and tackle. But I want to kind of highlight something that I think is sometimes missed by people that I had to take away from my session with Tim. One, time is the ultimate constraint that is there. It is always the element that people are going and considering. Can I go and get to market faster with this money? Can I invest money with this company so they can get to market faster and I'll be able to go and get my payback? And I don't think enough people go and give enough credit to the role of time in going and articulating value to an investor or a buyer that may be there as well. The other element that I'd kind of go and highlight that I think is really important, and I think almost a gut punch at times, is that venture capital is practically HR. And it's all about going and having an A team that can go and take any idea and be able to bring it to life, rather than having a B team with a really, really good idea. And that's tough. And I think it's something that people really need to go and evaluate for themselves. What is it going to go and take to bring it out from themselves or the team, or even how they go and qualify people? And I would really invite people to who are looking to raise or looking to exit also do something that I think is very, very different, which is to go and pitch themselves. Go and criticize yourself. Go and take a look at, would you go and take a portion of your life savings and lock it up into this company for a period of time? And if you can't do that, keep going and going and going until you have just full conviction that what you're going and building or what you're going and selling is it. It is going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to be worth it for you. And I hope that that gives you some insight into what you want to go and pursue as part of your raise and exit.